we have got to stop letting people make us feel bad about our babies. I'm a baby mama.
I'm gonna sing my song, not your song. Can't get it wrong, cause it's my song. You can sing along, don't get it wrong. It's my song. You can go and sing your song, and my song will stay strong, cause I believe in my song.
Hi, welcome to Chrissy be Talking. I'm a baby mama. And I don't have a problem finding successful men. We, women who have children and who are single moms, let people make us feel bad because of our babies. Y'all need to stop. Stop letting people make you feel bad because of your baby and your children. Because at the end of the day, you know you want them kids. I liked children before I had a child. I liked them. People could call me to babysit. I was a teacher, but I wasn't on the trajectory to be like a mom. I do want to add that being a single mom is not the goal. I'm not saying that at all. I don't want anyone to think that I'm like, ooh, that should be your goal. No, as a single mom, I can say with confidence that it would be easier to have a husband, a good husband, not a crappy husband. So, of course, to me, mom and dad, two-parent household is the goal. However, what I'm trying to say is that being a single mom doesn't make you a failure. It doesn't make you less than human. It doesn't make you dumb or stupid or all these things, or like part of the downfall of society, or all these little labels that people put on us as single moms. That's why we need to make sure that they don't make us feel bad about our babies. Like living in an apartment, that's not the goal, but some people live in apartments their entire lives and never own a house. That doesn't mean that they're a bad person. That doesn't mean that they don't contribute to society or the economy. That doesn't mean that they're failures in life. It just means that they never bought a house. And I'm honest enough to say that if I could go back and like redo what I did with my baby daddy and not have my child, absolutely no way. No way. There's no way that I would choose another kid. And my kid is a lot. I'm a girl's girl and he's a boy's boy. I'll talk to my friend who has a daughter and she'll talk about her and her daughter singing musical theater. That's not gonna happen up in here. You know, we sing like what? Go Power Rangers, and he'll sing like the Pokemon song. So he's into like Pokemon and Sonic and things like that. And like, of course, I would be a little bit more excited about like Barbies and musical theater and I'm just more things that are stereotypical things that you would say a woman would be more into. But I really like him and he actually has enriched my life. I don't let people tell me what my life is. I look and I feel and I judge what my life is. Thank goodness, because other people will tell you that your life is bad or your life is good or your life is whatever. It's the same principle actually as this woman calling this guy she doesn't know to ask him what she needs to do. That's the same principle of letting people tell you that you need to be ashamed of your kid, or you shouldn't have had your kid, or you can't take care of your kid, or whatever with your child. And I see it happen so much. In fact, I remember very specifically, I went to lunch with 4 women, right? So I left work to have lunch with them. And so, the 3 of us were there, and then one her friend came, and she was like an actress and, just trying to make it. And she was sitting there drinking water, or I think it was like tea or whatever, something that she wasn't gonna pay for because she couldn't. And I'm not laughing at her. I'm just saying it is what it happens. But she was at the lunch with us and not eating anything is the point of it. I was like, no, I'll get your food, because it's awkward for her to sit there and not eat anything. In the midst of that conversation, she turns to me and she's like, yeah, it must be really hard for you, being a single mom. I didn't want to make her feel bad, but when I rode home thinking about her specifically telling me how hard it was after I was one paying for her food as a single mom with a job who could afford to go out to eat, and you with no kids, you can't. So not to, and I'm not saying that is a barometer, because there's plenty of single moms who couldn't afford to go there. However, what I'm saying is that in that situation, she didn't even recognize that she was at lunch and couldn't afford to go to a restaurant, but I could, and I was the single mom of the group. She made this assumption that my life is so hard. If I had a weaker mind, I would have accepted it and been like, yeah, it is, man, it's so hard for me. After that meeting, I decided that I was not going to accept sadness or accept hard times because of other people. And people will say that. She's not the first one. That's just an example. But people will tell you how hard things are for you. I get it. If it is hard, it's fine. But I think that you definitely need to step back, look around, and make sure that it's hard before you accept someone saying that your life is hard, or that you're average, or that you can't get the kind of person that you want to be with. I'm cooking and I smell my greens burning, so I'm gonna stop. I may end the video here. I may extend it for later. Thanks for watching. If this is the end, it may not be. I don't know. Bye. Nothing's wrong with you and nothing's wrong with your baby. The thing is that the same people would be like, oh, the Lord. But then when you, story. I first had my baby and I was at this girl's house with a bunch of my friends, and I was the only one who had a baby. And I'm sitting there with my son, like on my lap, normal conversation. So this one girl gets real loose and she goes, I don't remember what they were talking about, but I remember her saying, laughing because it like sort of slipped out, you know God ain't want her to have that baby before she got married, right? And then it was like sort of silence and everybody's looking at me. And I felt it, and I didn't say anything, but my thought was, he probably did. Because there's ways for you not to have the kid, you know? God knows what he's doing. And to me, that's a really big part of all the people who want to sit and judge single moms and act like we're just something's wrong with us. Supposedly, if you believe in God, then you believe that God controls things, so then it can't be both. It can't be that God didn't want something to happen, but it happened. In my life, I can't control other people's thoughts, but for me, and having my son actually solidified this for me, solidified it, is that when good things happen to me, I am like, praise God. When bad things happen to me, I am like, okay, God, I know you wanted this to happen, let me figure out why, or let me just move on to the next thing. Because I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say, oh, if I don't like it, God didn't want it. I have to, well, for me, my belief is that when something that I don't want to happen happens, there's a reason that it needed to happen. And then another story, single moms, I want you to hear this. My mother, my biological mother, had 5 kids. One thing my aunt told me when I was an adult, that when she was having these kids, people were saying, oh, why does she keep having these kids? She can't take care of these kids, talking all this smack about her having all these kids, right? And we, her children, her offspring, have been blessings in other people's lives, like very consistently. Like I'll take myself out of the running and say my siblings are blessings to other people's lives. And that wouldn't have happened had she not had all these kids. So while y'all are sitting around, bad-mouthing baby mamas and talking about how bad single mothers are and how we are the downfall of society, blah, blah, remember that the offspring of single parents contribute to society in positive ways. Is being a single parent the goal? No. Does being a single parent make you a failure? No. Will some men not want to date you if you have a child? Yes. Will other men date you if you have a child? Yes. Like, one more story. I'm sorry, I gotta tell this one so I can get off my chest. So when I first started dating after I had my son, I had this fear within myself. Like, I attracted, just like, that's a whole different story too, of I attracted being a single mother because I never wanted to be a single mother. So I would think in my head, oh, I don't want to be a single mother. And then it happened, and like later I realized, oh, I attracted that because I didn't want it so much that it happened, but actually now I'm glad it happened. Do I wish that I had a husband? Yeah, a good husband, not a crappy husband. Would I go back and marry my son's father? No. Will I marry someone I don't want to marry just so that I can say that I'm married? No. So, when I first started dating after I had my son, I think he was about, let's say 1.5, 2 when I started dating. And again, I had this fear of just that men would not want me because I had this kid. And when I tell you, every man I met, when we would get to the point where he would find out I had a kid, it would be this look that would cross their eyes, like this look of disappointment, and I could see it. In fact, one dude who I went out with, we had fun, real talk, I would never date him seriously, but we had fun when we went out. When he found out I had a kid, he called me. And in the midst of the conversation, you know how you can tell someone's forcing a conversation? So he forced this conversation about responsibility. And he's telling me that, you know, he doesn't have a lot of responsibilities, and he's planned his life so he doesn't have responsibilities. And I'm like, okay, because it's a weird, it didn't flow. So then he's telling me how, you know, he likes to just pick up and go on trips, and you know, if you have a kid you can't do that. And I was like, oh, you know, do you go on lots of trips like spontaneously without planning? And he's like, no, but I could. And I could tell he got like really defensive because most people plan their trips, and just like anybody else, me being a single mom, I could plan my trips. But anyway, the point is that I would meet man after man after man who did not, and these were high earning men, I'll give it to that dude, is that these men did not want to be with a woman who had a kid, right? And they did have a judgment. Like one guy, he told me, he said that, you know, he never wanted to date someone who had a kid, but he was going to overlook it for me. He said he was gonna overlook my baby. Thank you so much for overlooking my son. Anyway, so that didn't work out. But remember, it was because I had a fear, because here's what happened. I had to step back and work on myself and my confidence and who I was as a person. And when I tell you, the minute I decided that my son was not a source of shame or a source of burden or anything like that, and I would proudly, I would make sure to work it into the very first conversation that I have a son. After that, I cannot say, and that's been years, like I'll say, it's been years. It's been, at least 6 years, 5 or 6 years. I have yet to meet a man who had that as an issue. Now, mind you, the caveat is that I will meet more men who have kids, but I have met high earning men. I got this confidence about myself and, you know, got comfortable with being who I am. The very first man I met was a real estate guy who had a crap ton of money. So like, making 6 figures doesn't make you kind or generous or funny or cool to be around, none of it. So we had met at an open house that I did. And so then he called me the following week when I was at the park with my son. And so he's like, what are you doing? And I just had to say, I was like, I'm at the park with my son. And he was like, oh, how old is your son? And so then I told him, and we chit-chatted, and then we went out like 3 or 4 times. Of course, we're not together, but it wasn't like he was like, ooh, you have a kid, you're older, I don't want you. It was like there were other things that we didn't have in common. So that wasn't the thing that made that not work out. It's not going to be these traits that people want to put on it, these physical, like, oh, you're too A or too B or too C. Like, think about it. That's not an intelligent way to approach a relationship, like solely based on those factors. And it's something I think that people, maybe not in the situation, say to make themselves feel better, or it's an excuse that I think women will use. Like, I could easily be like, I'm single because I have a child and I am in my second 20s. But I have to be honest with myself, and my honesty comes from the fact that I'm single for different reasons. Maybe I'll make a video telling y'all why I'm single, but I'm not gonna lie to myself and say I'm single because of my kid. Like, stop. I don't want people to think that I'm saying that being a single mom is the goal, but it also definitely does not make you a failure. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you.